Good evening and welcome to the Monday, May 5th City Council meeting. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Second item on the agenda is to approve the minutes from the April 21st meeting.
So moved.
Second.
John?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
And Mary?
Yes. Item number 2 is hearing of public concerns. Mr. Cox?
Steve Cox, Huntington Drive. I'd like to repeat my request for a vacuuming of the loose stones out of the grass on Eastland Estates. I did notice a street sweeper coming into Huntington Drive just as I was leaving and turning onto 34 about 12:30 this afternoon. I have no idea what, if anything, it did, so I can't tell you anything about that. But
As far as the leaf picker-upper vacuum is called, I know Tyson has told us multiple times they're not going to use that because they're not going to damage it with the rocks. Am I correct in saying that? And
Okay,
it's just
so-
not going to happen.
If you saw a street sweeper, it would be for the street itself. I think, unless I misheard, Ty last time stated clearly, and I think the mayor, if I may, reiterated that we don't do that, or we don't sweep up stones for anybody on their grass or lawn. Did I hear that right?
Yes, he did say that. Yes.
So that's not, from my understanding of that is never going to happen. Each person has to do their own, I believe. Once again, I'll stand corrected if I misheard.
Well, I think that's what you heard.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just not going to happen. We can't damage the leaf collector because that's what's going to happen. And that's going to be a cost that goes on to the taxpayers to fix something picked up, because it's not designed to pick up stone. It's designed to pick up leaves.
well, lawnmowers aren't necessarily designed to handle the stone underneath them either.
Right, but
So-
other citizens have it with the snow plowing, and they manage to rake their stones back into the
Okay,
the street. Yeah, I'm
As
just,
I've said,
yeah. I just want to make sure you understood, because that's what Tyson had said last week.
Okay.
So,
now, my experience with trying to rake gravel is that it doesn't work real well.
okay.
But, I mean, when the blades are wider apart than the stone granules, it's not a real effective way to do it. Last thing I have to say is, Steve, if you would be so kind as to come out, I'd like to show you something on the South Court Island.
You requested that the last time. I will make that possible. Just right now, I'm sorry, but this is my busy time of the year, and so I'm booked almost every day of the week.
Okay.
So I will make it a point to get out there when I can.
All right.
So I apologize, but
No, okay, I can understand that, so,
thank you.
but just let me know, and
Yep.
I will show you what I've noticed. So, again, thank you very much for your time and effort. Thank you, and enjoy the good weather while we got it.
That's right.
Item number 4 is an ordinance. John, please number and read.
Ordinance number 19, 2025, an ordinance creating Chapter 377 of the Bryan Codified Ordinances to regulate the use of low-speed micromobility devices. And just a reminder, that's the second reading.
Yeah, and I read something this past week that in January of 2025, the Ohio Revised Code was revised to deal specifically with e-scooters. I don't know if we have already. There's no need to do that, but if we haven't, perhaps I could request the administration could look into that and see, because we need to be in sync with the Ohio Revised Code. irregardless as to when it became law. So is that a reasonable request, Mary, you think?
It is. So I went ahead, thank you for pointing that out and bringing that to our attention. It turns out effective June 30th of this year, there are a lot of restrictions on these electric personal assistive mobility devices, i.e. scooters. Some of them are probably going to be pretty upsetting to the public, but they are going to be law as far as the Ohio Revised Code goes, beginning June 30th. So my question to council is, I talked to Mark this morning. He's going to be here for our next council meeting. So I can have a new ordinance to you that reflects that goes into effect also June 30th. Or we can wait until June 30th and take it up then, and it is at the pleasure of the council. What you'd like me to do, I'm happy to do that. My suggestion, though, is if you do have us bring another ordinance, that we go through a first reading of that.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, it makes sense.
So that the public has some time to become
Yes.
aware to these new laws that,
Yeah.
again, that were passed by the state
Right.
and become effective the end of June.
Right. I mean, state laws,
It's state law, and we
It's
can't
state
do
law.
less than state law. We can do more, and I think, the chief and I had a conversation about that Friday, and so some of these things do restrict the age of the children, whether or not they have safety protective helmets, all of those things. So I think the one thing I would ask, you had talked about, I think, a three-wheel bike, or there was something so that wouldn't be, I think, covered in this. We'll have to check with Mark.
Okay.
So we may have to revert back to a little bit of this as well. I know there were a lot of conversations the public had about e-bikes as well. They didn't feel comfortable riding those on sidewalks, which is fair. And if we restricted the speeds to no streets over 25 miles an hour, they really had no way to get into town, because a lot of those streets are 35 mile an hour. So if you go that route where you want the restrictions on e-bikes, the things that you had in this ordinance, could you just individually send me an email sometime early next week?
well, speaking
Or
for.
this week?
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
But speaking for myself, I don't want any additional restrictions. I just want to make sure we're in compliance with the current restrictions
Yeah.
by the state of Ohio. And I think that's rather important. Obviously, they have found something in the last year or whatever that there needs to be further restrictions on age and protective devices. As it relates to three-wheel, my understanding is there's probably different kinds of three-wheel, but people that have mobility needs, my understanding is this does not affect them. Is that everybody else's understanding?
I think the ordinance that you were looking at, Ordinance 19, did have some restrictions. We wanted them up on sidewalks instead of on truck routes, those kind of things. So it did play a factor into that.
Okay,
So that's where I said we may have to marry the two.
sure.
Sure.
No, I appreciate you looking with, well, I didn't know who, you,
The chief.
the chief, and
Mark.
maybe Mark, okay.
I did have a couple people reach out to me about the speed limit with the e-bikes. They want to go on 35 mile an hour roads, just because of the accessibility, not on the main drags, right? But what the golf carts can go on.
Yeah.
So that was,
So that's a question. Do we put
Yeah.
the e-bikes that are listed in here separately? Do we address them or do we not? Because I think right now, those are mostly by adults. Do they have to have a license, do you know?
No.
No? Yeah, where do we go from, kids had to get moped licenses?
Yeah, I know. That's what I thought. I looked into it a couple of weeks ago. That's how I stumbled on this. That's what I thought was weird. Wait a minute. You got to register and have a license for a moped?
But you don't on
But-
an e-bike.
Yeah.
It goes just as fast.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
it didn't make sense to me, but,
Well, and we also have the single-wheel devices that people ride too.
Yeah,
I think it's a general, anything with a motor on, electric motor
Yeah.
on it that's on the roads, should be covered under something.
Yeah.
so I think what I'm getting from you guys is maybe typing something where the e-bikes have the same restrictions as golf carts, where they can cross at a light on High and Main, and then otherwise they're okay.
I'd like to see that ORC.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
read that.
Before answering that question
Yeah.
that you're
Yeah.
asking, yes, I'd like
Yeah.
to.
So
You gotta be in
if-
compliance with the
If
state
you
law,
wanna,
I'm sorry.
so I'm gonna tell you that if you wanna write it down, it's section 4511512, and then I will scan it in and email it to
Yeah.
you guys tonight too. So initially, these electric scooters were dealt with in January of 2004, mostly when cities were starting to rent them.
Yeah.
So that's really what it covered. Now they've gone, and again, it's effective the end of June of this year, and really restricted them in a lot of ways. If under 16 years of age, you have to have a person who's under direct visual and audible supervision of another person who is 18 years and is responsible for the immediate care of the person under 16. No person under 14 shall operate them. There's a lot of,
Yeah.
I know. See, Mr. Oswald, you're making the same face I did,
Yeah.
because they're, yeah.
I'm thinking about the kids who write these to school.
And to the
Oh, my.
ballpark
That's what,
and
that,
to practice,
Uh-huh.
there's a lot of them.
because they're going in
I mean,
and
'cause
out.
if you're talking a freshman, you know, you're talking 14, maybe 15, you know. We even have middle schoolers who would use them to get around for, you know, their practices. So, yeah, I would,
But what I'm gonna tell you and what Mark will tell you at the next council meeting, and the chief kindly reminded me when I said this is gonna create a lot of conversation, we cannot restrict less than what the
Right.
state does. We can restrict more with our home rule authority as a charter community, but when this goes in effect June 30th, whether council does anything or not,
it's there.
it's there.
And what
Council,
caught
the
my
only thing I would
attention,
add to
Steve,
this.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. The only thing I would add is when you go and search that, just make sure you're clicking on the newest version.
Yeah.
That does come out June 30th, because when you Google search it, it's going to take you to the current law.
Yeah.
Which by the time, if you guys would decide to act on anything, the new one's going to be in effect.
When I stumbled across this a while ago, a week or two or whatever, that's what grabbed my attention, was the state law was you must be minimum 16, 14 to 15-year-olds must be within ear and eye supervision of an 18-year-old. And all must wear, up to the 18, must wear, have helmets. So that caught my attention, and that's why I thought, what we're currently doing doesn't appear to be in compliance with current state law.
I mean, it will be, but not
Yeah.
after June
Yeah,
30th.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's not, I'm not
Yeah.
pointing at anybody.
No, I know. So it would be fine today, but another,
6 weeks, it
yeah,
won't.
it won't be.
So do we need to stop the readings? Do we need
That's
to
what-
do
Your
anything?
options are,
Yeah, go ahead.
your options are to either let this lie with a second read and it would come back to the next meeting as is, or you can make a motion to table it pending further review and potentially a new ordinance altogether, in which case it would go away unless and until there was a vote to untable it, which may never happen. So you could either let it lie with a second read and do nothing else, or someone can make a motion to table it if that's what council wishes.
Does it make sense to table it?
Yeah, we table
I
it.
think so.
Table.
Well,
So-
so
Go ahead,
make
John.
a motion.
So I'll move to table this.
I'll second,
Steve,
Yes.
John,
yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
and Mary.
Yes. I have number 5 as an ordinance. John, please number and read.
Ordinance number 2025, ordinance number 2025, an ordinance providing for annual appropriations for the city of Bryan for the fiscal year ending December 31, 2025, and declaring an emergency. I kind of hated to bring this to you with one small item on it. There's a timing issue here. Last year, council may recall that the Bryan Area Foundation provided the city with $2,250 in scholarship funds for the training of 2 police officers. And a portion of that was been used by the one officer, and the other officer will be using his portion this year. That $750 did not get appropriated in 2025, so that's what this ordinance does.
Okay. All right.
Well, I'll move to suspend.
I'll second.
Jim,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
and Mary.
Yes.
Sorry about that. Oh, I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
John,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
and Mary.
Yes. Item number 6 is an ordinance. John, please number and read.
Ordinance number 21, 2025, an ordinance providing for the transfer of funds for the city of Bryan for the month ending May 31, 2025. And the transfers in this ordinance are at the request of the Bryan Municipal Utilities. Their board, the Board of Public Affairs, authorized requesting council to approve these transfers at their last meeting, and these are typical to what they would do each year, transferring money from their operating budgets into the electric capital reserve fund and the water capital reserve fund to fund 2025 budgeted capital projects. Kind of routine.
Well, I'll move to suspend.
Second.
Steve,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
and Mary.
Yes.
And I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Jim,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
and Mary.
Yes. Item number 7 is an ordinance. John, please number and read.
Ordinance number 22, 2025, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a prosecutorial services contract with the law firm of Rupp, Hagans, and Bohmer, LLP.
Council, this would be a one-year agreement effective June 1st. Currently, they are charging us, and they have for the last 2 years, $10,000 a month. They have asked for an additional $1,000 a month to cover additional court cases, as well as, honestly, they also have an appeals case regarding Dad's Place as well. So there's some more legal work going on. Certainly appreciate the partnership. They provide good prosecution. If James is not available, one of the other partners steps in and covers court cases, so there's never a need for special counsel outside of this group. And I will say again, they did not charge us, they did not increase for 2 years, and this is the first increase they've asked for.
Well, certainly think it's gone very smooth. I wasn't real sure how it was going to go 2 years ago. So congratulations on that. John,
It was budget.
I'm sorry?
We did budget for an increase. Sorry. I try to think about it, I just
Well,
forgot to
it's not-
say it out loud.
Not predictable, that's for sure.
You are pretty predictable. It's actually under what we were estimating
Thank
for
you.
the budget. Sorry, Mr. Betts.
No. I love it. People can predict me.
Do anything along the lines of court fees or anything like that help with this, or?
It's kind of a wash. I mean, most of the court fees are gonna go back to the general fund as a wash, right? What we get.
Oh, yeah, I mean,
It doesn't go back
in
into that line
total, I
item.
mean, the revenues generated, and revenues might not be the right word, but the receipts generated out of the court generally are not enough to cover all the court expenses, but it's
Okay.
not uncommon.
You're on the budget committee, right? You'll
I
find
am.
more. You'll
It's
find out more
complicated.
about that soon.
Yep, I am.
Well, I'll move to suspend.
I'll second.
Jim,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
and Mary.
Yes.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Rick,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
and Mary.
Yes.
Thank you.
Item number 8 is an ordinance. John, please number and read.
Ordinance number 23, 2025, an ordinance repealing Chapter 733 of the Bryan Codified Ordinances concerning mechanical amusement devices.
Council, this was something that was established back in 1957. I do know sometime between the years of 2016 and 18, when Rick and I were on council together, Mayor Johnson had come and done an increase to that $15 per amusement device. What I can tell you today is, those are those pull tabs that you'll find places. It's very hard to regulate that on a local level, and usually I just ask the police chief or an officer to go out and verify who has what, and then we send them a letter, and we're not recouping the cost of an employee going out and trying to track these down. They are also regulated by the state. There are fees they pay to the state, so there's a little bit of, are we taxing them something that they're already taxed for question. I don't personally see a need to keep this ordinance on, and I asked Mark to prepare an ordinance repealing it. You guys can do a first reading, or you can do whatever you choose. But personally, the administrative staff here sees no need to continue to charge restaurants.
It has no significant effect on money or
I
operation.
think, what we collect $90 last
Yeah,
year?
less than $100 each of the years as far back as I remember.
Okay.
Because honestly, there are some that don't pay, and then you have to go, are we really gonna take this downstairs to
It
go
actually
with
costs more
court?
money to follow up,
Yeah.
sounds like. Okay.
So besides pinball machines, what else?
Those pull tabs, like, and I don't even know how else to explain them, like probably the Keno machines, those kind of things. And then there was some question, because there's a gas station in town, the Humane Society actually had the amusement device. We wrote a letter to the gas station, they were like, we don't operate this, we don't get any of this. So then the question is, do you charge the Humane Society, that's a nonprofit, $15? It just seemed silly. There's a couple bars that we really have a hard time collecting from, and it gets kind of contentious. So for $15 a device that recoups less than $100 a year, I don't see a need, considering the state already kind of regulates if they're allowed to have them or not. Just my personal opinion.
So does a liquor license people, or
Totally separate.
totally separate? They don't, okay.
I'll move to suspend.
Yep. I'll second.
Rick,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
John?
I think I'm gonna need to abstain unless you can help, since I'm the president of the Humane Society.
Yeah, that's fine.
And there is a possibility that I'm saying, don't charge us.
Sure.
So I think I'd prefer to
Well, I can
abstain at
appreciate
this
that.
point.
Mary?
Yes.
I forget you guys have lives outside of city council.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mention that, I wouldn't even have put the two together.
Sure.
I'll move to approve.
And I'll second.
Steve,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
John,
Abstain.
and Mary?
Yes.
Thank you again.
Item, make sure I'm the right one now. Item number 10 is ordinance,
Nine.
excuse me, resolution. John, please number and read.
Nope. Item number 9.
Did I skip number 9? I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yep.
Can you
Ordinance
read number
Very
9,
good.
please?
Ordinance number 24, 2025, an ordinance amending section 95707 of the City of Bryan Codified Ordinances to increase the maximum amount of reimbursement the City of Bryan will pay for indigent burial expense. The last time this section of the code was addressed was 2003. I honestly don't know whether the rate was adjusted in 2003 or if it goes back even further, but a year or so ago, council may recall, we made a kind of a side agreement with Krill to pay them $1,000 per service. And since then, we've heard from Oberlin Turnbull. We're aware that other communities in the area have elevated that $750 price to $1,500. And in our conversations with a couple of funeral homes, I will tell you that does not come close to covering their costs, but it's a number that they're comfortable with and are happy that communities around us are going to that number. We've also since learned as well, for the last couple of years, the state of Ohio had suspended a reimbursement program where they would reimburse the cities or the villages who pay for these things up to $1,000 per. And my understanding is that funding has just been reestablished, so that will help us out a little bit as well. Again, I think funeral homes we work with be very appreciative of this, and we could argue it's long overdue.
Do you have any sense of, I mean, it makes sense, 22 years. Do you have any sense of how many indigent burials there are per year? Just
Yeah, I mean, we
even-
might see a half a dozen. 468.
No, I'm good. I'm good.
And this also, though, covers, from reading it, it covers the tombstone or marker.
The way I think we have it, it'd be 1,500 for the cremation service, basically, and then 250 on top of
Marker.
that for the marker. We don't often pay the marker, I don't know.
Well, so typically with indigent burials, they're done by cremation. When council voted and we purchased that cremation niche, there is an urn that is specific for indigent, so they would be put in the separate area of the urn. So the marker is not.
Mark would only be necessary if, in fact, they go to Fountain Grove Cemetery. which
Correct.
With a cremation doesn't necessarily happen.
I'll move to suspend.
Second.
Jim?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
And Mary?
Yes.
Move to approve. I'll second.
Rick?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And Mary?
Yes. Now we will go on to item number 10, which is a resolution. John, will you please number and read?
Resolution number 27, 2025, a resolution authorizing the clerk treasurer to advertise for bids for the project known as Don North Municipal Building re-roof.
Andy's going to start out with, if you drove by,
Good evening.
Evening. Andy.
If you've noticed, this building could use re-shingled. So we've been working with an architect to get plans around, and we just realized that we didn't have permission to bid this. We're close on the plans, still waiting on the plans and the estimate, so.
Asphalt.
Correct.
Thank you. Sorry.
Is this the original roof on here now, or is it been re-roofed before?
97?
No. This would have been 01, I believe,
Okay.
so.
Okay.
So yes.
So it doesn't know-
Minus the areas that need fixed where we lost a bunch. So,
I'll move to suspend.
I'll second.
Rick?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And Mary?
Yes.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Steve?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
And Mary?
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you.
Andy.
That concludes the items on the agenda. We'll go around the room. Mayor, do you have anything?
Just want to remind everyone that tomorrow is voting day, and council has passed an ordinance in support of issue 1, so we're asking voters to go out and vote yes for issue 2. Sorry, I misspoke there. And also to remind the community that prom is this weekend, so certainly hope the kids have a fun time. I'm sure Mr. Oswald will make sure that they're all dancing, and he'll be leading the pack to that. But we just encourage the kids to have, safe driving habits and, make sure they all have a fun time at prom that doesn't.
I think I'd pay to see Steve dance.
No, you wouldn't.
I mean, you dance, right? I've seen your wife in a beautiful dress, chaperoning with
Slow
you.
dance, that's enough, extended.
All
Oh.
But also, just want to remind the public, the kids will be out, and just hopefully they're all very careful. I thank the chief for the mock crash that he helped get back into the county. Hopefully that helps send a message to those young drivers too. I think that's it.
Thank you. John, do you have anything?
I don't.
Department heads, do you have anything? Newspaper? With that, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Steve?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
And Mary?
Yes.